People often say even though Richie Blackmore wrote the biggest or most recognizable guitar riff ever, he's still kind of an underrated guitar player. And I kind of agree with that, but I'd say the biggest thing he doesn't get enough credit for is his slide, or as he calls, steel playing. And it is a huge part, integral part of his guitar playing. So if you want to play Blackmore songs, chances are you're gonna need to use slide. So it's important to talk about. So in this video, I'll discuss a couple of key things about slide playing. For example, how to hold the slide like Blackmore. Also, just in general, how to play the slide if you're a beginner, or if you never played slide, or if you never was able to make it sound good. And then we also talk about muting of the picking hand, because that's very important to get a clean sound. Also, I'll discuss guitar setup action a bit. That might help you get a better sound with your slide as well. And last but not least, I'll show you a few things Blackmore usually does. So basically what to play, or what he plays with the slide. So let's get into it by talking about how he holds the slide. And I think the best way to understand why he does that is understand why he calls it steel. And for that, we have to look back to the origins of slide bottleneck playing. So one of the roots of slide playing comes from Delta blues, Mississippi blues. And back in the day, like 100 years ago, in the 20s, people used to cut off the top part of the wine bottles and basically use them on their fingers to slide. So these are literally bottlenecks. That's why we call them that. On the other hand, another popular musical style that helped plant slide playing in the popular American culture, probably in the 30s, was Hawaiian style playing, or Hawaiian style music. And they did that on lap style instruments. So not round neck guitars, but they were stringed instruments which they held in their laps. You can still see that today with bluegrass dobro, or just lap steel guitars, or pedal steel guitars in country music as well. And they usually use a metal bar, steel bar like this, and they hold that in their palms, and they kind of put that on the neck fretboard, except obviously when you're sliding, you're not using the frets. And you might have seen these dobros, lap style, pedal steel guitars has very high action. And the reason is simple: you don't need the frets. And on the other hand, you must not use the frets, but we get to that in a minute. So basically, I think this is where Blackmore got it from. His main influence must have been lap steel, lap style, steel playing. And if you look at how he holds the slide, it's pretty similar. He's just doing it with a regular sort of metal or steel bottleneck that you could put on your fingers, because you can do that with the bar. It doesn't have like a hole in there. So the way I think he kind of holds it, or at least how I do it, is I kind of put it in this area of my palm, so it holds in place from under the slide. And then I kind of just wrap my fingers around it, something like this. And it's very important, I'm going to use my thumb on the back of the guitar neck. I'm not keeping it down here, it's going to be on the neck, but on the back of the neck. We'll talk about that when we discuss vibrato. So this is kind of how you hold it. But basically you can hold it however you want to, but as long as you do the most important thing, and it is to keep it parallel to the frets. So if this is your fret, the slide has to be parallel, and to get a proper intonation, you have to put the slide on top or exactly over the fret. Now, the reason you need to keep it straight is because if you're playing multiple strings at the same time, not just one, they won't be in tune otherwise. So let's check this out. If you play this fragment of a C chord, It's sort of in tune now. But I slanted the slide and it's not in tune now. Maybe you can see it very well, so let me put it on my fingers, Billy Gibbons style. I guess I should have tuned my guitar, but I hope you see the point. Now let's talk about intonation. Like I hinted before, you have to put the slide on top of the fret to get the proper note. So it means that the slide is replacing the fret, and therefore you must not touch the fret with the string. The string will only touch the slide. And otherwise you get weird noises. So let me demonstrate. This is when I'm lightly only touching the string with the slide. If I push it down hard so the string touches the fret, it obviously doesn't sound good. So it's very important to have a light, delicate touch. You have to develop control over the slide. The other thing I wanted to demonstrate is if you don't put the slide on top of the fret, it will sound again out of tune. See, it's flat. So if you want to replace your finger with the slide, it's gonna be flat. Now, some players like Ariel Posen say that you kind of have to shift the slide ever so slightly back from above the fret in the direction of the headstock. It might be true. The thing is, you have to listen to it. Start by putting it on top of the fret and see if you can get a proper intonation. And for that, of course, you can watch a tuner, but that's not really a good long-term solution. Slide playing is really relying on your ears, so you have to have a musical hearing to be good at slide, because you can't just rely on visuals. That's just an unfortunate fact. So work on your hearing, work on your slide playing, because you have to hear where the slide, the note is properly intonated, and then practice that so your muscles can memorize it and then you can play it fast. Okay, now that we know how to get a properly intonated tone or note with a slide, let's talk about vibrato, which is very important in guitar playing, and this is sort of what makes slide more vocal like. You can apply a nice vibratos or wider and more, well, just different vibratos than with your finger. So first of all, with your finger you're kind of just going up, but with the slide you can also go down. Some old school blues guys say that you should only use the vibrato downwards with the slide, but I'm not sure. It's a rule everyone has to follow. So basically, the most important thing with vibrato with the slide is anchoring your thumb. And if you think about it, you kind of do that with just regular vibrato. You basically have your thumb gripping on the neck to have leverage to move or shake your wrist. Now with the slide you're gonna shake in sort of a horizontal direction, but you still need to anchor your thumb. So my thumb is steady, but if I move around the neck, I don't know if you saw it, but if I'm moving around the neck, I'm kind of letting my thumb go or releasing it a bit, just like I would when shifting positions without the slide. But then when I arrive to a note that I want to apply vibrato on or vibrato on, I firmly plant my thumb in the neck. This is one of the most important things to remember from this video. And this brings us to the common beginner mistakes. Just because you can slide into things and just because you can add vibrato with a slide, you don't have to do that on every note. Think of it this way, you're not using vibrato on each note when you're playing without the slide either. So don't overdo vibrato and don't always slide into notes. So many people unfortunately do that in the beginning. Just try to shed that as soon as you can. So if we think about a song like Maybe Next Time, there are many subtle differences between the notes or how Blackmore plays them. It's not that's not very musical. It's like a bad cartoon, or I don't know. But let me demonstrate a few things Blackmore does and then we'll talk about this. So you might have realized that I didn't slide into everything, I didn't use vibrato, and I didn't always slide between the notes. So it's possible to separate notes kind of in a staccato-ish manner. For example, I basically just start this note short, reposition my hand and pick again. The way I do it is I put my pick back on the string to mute it. And you have to do that really fast with this C bass lick. So it's not, and it's not, it's short, well separated notes. Again, by putting back my pick on the string. Now, then just starting out with this, I didn't start with sliding in, or didn't start with a vibrato. I just started with an E note, like I would play it with my finger. And then you slide up, and you can slide between two notes by just picking the first one. You can pick both, and then you do a slide, and this is what Blackmore does in Maybe Next Time. He initiates a slide down and he picks both notes, so not just the one you're going from, but the one you're arriving to. Exactly on the beat. And then some vibrato. So these are a couple of different ways you can play around with the musicality of slide. Listen to the song, and there's my cover of the song with the tabs, which you might already see on my channel, or I'm not sure if I posted by the time I post this video, but check out my channel for, or maybe I link it up here if I have my cover up. So these are the beginner mistakes. Once again, don't apply vibrato to everything, and don't always slide between every note. You can separate them. So this staccato picking or muting the string with a pick brings us to muting with your picking hand. And I'm gonna start with a technique that is called pick blocking, and I think it's easier to demonstrate it without a pick, because actually I really hate playing slide with a pick. This is my biggest regret, that I have to do that to copy or emulate Blackmore sound, but there's a huge difference between the pick attack. So the attack of the pick attack, yeah. So if you play or play, they sound different. So in order to get the right sound, I do use the pick when I'm covering Blackmore, but I hate doing that. So if you think about traditional bottleneck players like Derek Trucks, you can see them wear the bottleneck on their fingers. on their, well, yeah, left hand, and their right hand picking hand, they don't have no pick in there, they're just using their fingers. And the best way to demonstrate the technique called pick blocking is playing something on the B string. And what I will do is I will pick the B string with my index finger, but I will use my thumb and my middle finger to block or mute the two adjacent strings, so the strings around the one I'm playing in. So I have my thumb on the G, I have my index on the B, and I have my middle on the E string. And I will play a pentatonic lick very long. So I don't know if you notice, I'm not sure the camera picks it up very well or it's very visible from this distance, but I'm always changing string sets 3 fingers at a time so that my index finger would be in the middle, and that way I can mute the strings around the strings I'm playing on. Now, you don't only have to mute those strings that are immediately next to the one you're playing on, but you'll have to basically mute all the other strings. And I kind of use my palm or my picking hand to sit or lay across the lower strings that I'm not playing. And then I kind of get my fingers, middle and ring, to get any other strings that I'm not playing above the string I am playing. Now this is a very hard technique. So the easiest way to practice this is pick the G string with your thumb and then put your thumb back on the G string, and then pick the B string with your index and put it back, and go back and forth between the two. So you hear the open strings separated from each other, so it's not. So only one string at a time, and then if you're feeling brave, you can use 3 fingers. So that's basically it. And I'm not sure how Blackmore does something like this with a pick, but I try to do some sort of a blocking even with a pick, because if I have a pick in my finger, I can still use this portion of my palm to mute the lower strings or the strings below the one I'm playing. And it's something that Blackmore most likely is not doing, but I'm not able to see on the concert footages. But I don't think he uses his middle finger to block above the string he's playing, but I try doing that. Most of the times I do that. So once again, if I'm playing not sure if you can see it, but I basically grab the G string. If I'm playing on the D string, I grab the G string with my middle, and that way it doesn't produce any noise. And you can also probably see that I have my other finger, the ring finger, on the highest string. So I try to use all my fingers that I'm not holding the pick to mute, dampen the strings above the one I'm playing. If you're not doing that, you can get other harmonics, noises, slide noises, buzzes, and even your slide can accidentally play pull-offs or hammer-ons or anything like that. So it's very important to clean it up. Now usually you would, with regular slide playing, you would place your 3 fingers on the strings to reduce the possibility or opportunity for noise there as well, but you can't really do that by holding it. Well, I guess you could, but I'm not doing that. So the picking muting part is is most important, and you have to dedicate some time to clean up your playing, because it's especially true for overdriven guitar sounds. So obviously Blackmore did play clean, and he slides on the acoustic as well, but if you're thinking about the 70s Dio era Rainbow, those are heavy overdriven sounds, and those can produce, especially on that huge volume that he played live, and I guess on the CDs as well, or DVDs or vinyls, or well, albums. That's what I was looking for. So he played very loud, and therefore it was even more important to mute. Now, before we get into what to play with the slide, let's just quickly say a few words about action, guitar action. Slide is so much easier if you have a high action. But what constitutes a high action is sort of relative. Because if you're thinking about a Strat, low action on the Strat is not the same low action as on an Ibanez or Jackson shred guitar. So if you want a Strat set up properly, by default it's gonna have a medium action or string height, and this is what just sounds good on Strats. And trust me, I tried lowering them to low, but I had to realize it just doesn't really sound that great. So Strats by default require a medium action. If you have that with a 9-gauge Strat and you are light or delicate with the slide, you can get away with that. That's kind of what I'm doing, but I kind of raise the action here a bit, which is just well, a bit higher than I would usually have on my guitars. But that's not a full solution, because in order to be able to play cleanly in these areas, you also would need to raise the nut. I didn't do that, but at least it's easier for me to play in this register. Now, if you're using a 10-gauge set or Blackmore signature set, I think you'd be okay with a medium action on a Strat. But preferably, some people say don't try to learn slide on a dedicated guitar, because it won't make you play lightly, and there's definitely truth in that. So you can try on your regular guitar, but if you feel frustrated and you can't clean it up, and you can't play because of the action, because it just sounds weird, I really advise to get a dedicated guitar like my Les Paul here. That's actually up for sale. The good thing with this is it has a 0 fret nut that you can change or set with the Allen wrench keys, and therefore I was able to raise both ends or both points of the strings, and the strings are pretty high up, and well, compared to a regular Les Paul, and it has a 12-gauge set on it, and I just love playing slide on this guitar. So it does have its advantages to have a separate slide guitar. I think you'll reap the benefits, or you'll play something that you like, or it will be easier to get results on another guitar, but also from time to time come back to your regular guitar and try to lighten up your touch. I'm not sure how long this video will be, but the last thing I want to talk about is what sort of scales or things you should play. Now, to again quote Ariel Posen, a great overall guitar player but an amazing slide player too, play what you know. And it's definitely true for Blackmore. That's what Blackmore did. He kind of used the same things, well, except fast runs. Obviously you don't necessarily do that with a slide, or the slide has sort of limitations in that department, but he kind of used the same scales and patterns and tonalities that he used via the slide. So that means the pentatonic scale, the natural minor scale, and the harmonic minor / Phrygian dominant scales. So let's look at all of them, starting with the pentatonics, and it will be in the key of G. And it's actually very long. It's probably the first recorded slide from Blackmore. This is basically just a G pentatonic, G minor pentatonic. So you can do that all day. And if you kind of not just want to play the pentatonic scale like in order, just try to jam around. Just play around on this pentatonic position, and for this I'm not really using the first shape, but you could use that. You can kind of do that too, but what I'm doing here is I'm kind of walking down from the second shape to the first shape. So this will be the second. So pentatonic stuff like that. You can check out the solo from the Shed or LA Connection. I have those tabs tabbed on my gumroad.com tab shop. As for the natural minor scale, we should have another look at maybe next time, because that's basically just the A natural minor scale. Basically just spread out on just one string, but you can obviously play it on several strings. Kind of catch rainbow vibes, just not in the right key. So yeah, I think Catch Rainbow would be a good example for playing, but just in a key of E. Anyway, I hope you know the natural minor scale, and now you can try to play that with a slide as well. And finally, we can get into more exotic scales that Blackmore played, like the harmonic minor and the Phrygian dominant. Now, if you want to know more about those, I have a 4-part mini-series which you can find up here, in which I demonstrate Blackmore's licks, solos that uses these scales, and I talk about the scales, how we can jam around on them, and basically just understanding the theory or how those scales are put together, or what are those scales. Now let's start with A harmonic minor. The trick here is almost the same. It is almost the same scale as the A natural minor. It just has a major 7, so a raised 7. So instead of doing this is your natural minor, this is your harmonic minor. And you kind of do stuff like this. So that's the stuff. And if you want to look at examples, you can look at Stargazer, Stormbringer, for example. I have both of those. They're first of all shown in my mini series, but you can also grab the full tab on my Gumroad web shop. and in those you're in the key of B, so a whole tone higher. So this sort of let's make it the first thing that you try with the slide. So play around with these notes. 4 on the G, 5 on the G, 4 on the B, 5 on the B, 7 on the B, 8 on the B. And I think that's it for this super long slide video. I hope you heard new things, useful things, and I'm really hoping that that this video mini course helped you get a better slide sound. If you would like some further help, assistance, or more explanation about any of the topics, or just want me to look at your slide playing and discuss areas of improvement, feel free to Gmail me and we can set up a Zoom or a Skype lesson. I'm totally up for that. Other than that, thank you for watching the video. Let me know in the comment section how you muted the slide or how you play with the slide. Who's your favorite slide player? And obviously the second favorite after Blackmore. So yeah, just thank you for sticking around this long, and hopefully see you in the next video too.